Okay, so let me show you what we have studied and on my PowerPoint presentation as well. And do ask if you have any question. Uh, this is again an interesting part of the course because we are learning about the design techniques, and I have covered this that you have uh, a low pass filter, a band pass filter, or an high pass filter. So these are the three different types of filters. Then we have covered that why to use FIR versus IR filters. That the main reason for using FIR is a stable and linear phase, but you have to spend more operations per sample. And a reason of using IR, they are shorter, but you got to deal with quantization, susceptibility of the quantization, and also issues of stability. So you got to deal with these issues. But we need to learn both, designing FIR and IR systems both. And then we learned about that ideal is not possible. Because ideal is not possible, so you got to let your frequency response to live in this region, to transition in this region, and to live or to decay in this region. So this is called the pass band, transition band, stop band. A frequency is omega pass, omega stop, pi. Okay, so you need to remember all these things, that how these things are related and to the filter that you are going to design. Okay, so if you look in the log or on dB scale, it will elevate because you are interested in seeing this and you want to magnify this portion. This you hate these frequencies to enter in your signal, so you want to amplify them, and log scale would give you a way of actually magnifying this portion. Otherwise, this is a very, very small value, 0.001, and you may be very happy seeing this value appearing as 0 once you plot it from a scale 0 to 1. So that is the reason that the filters are usually plotted on dB scale, so that the region which you hate your signal to have any value, you want to amplify this region and see the frequency response of your filter on dB scale. Okay, that's why the filters frequency response are plotted on dB scale. So usually this is how the specifications are given. You have the pass band and the transition band and the stop band. Okay, and so you are given that you need to design a filter which should live in the pass band, should live from 0.99 to 1.01, and which should have in the stop band should have a value must not be greater than 0.001. And the frequencies, this is the omega pass and the omega stop, 2 pi 2000, it is 2 kilohertz and 3 kilohertz. So you're giving 1 kilohertz of margin for the frequency to drop down to frequency response to drop down to 0.001. And as I mentioned, you convert them into on the dB scale. So 1 in log scale is 0 dB. So 0 dB means 1, and obviously 0.001 is 10 raised to the power minus 3. So minus 3 into 20 is minus 60 dB. So once you see minus 60 dB, you must immediately remember that it is actually 0.001. Okay, so then we said IER filters are designed in continuous time domain. So you have a discrete time specifications, you convert them into continuous time specifications. You do a design in continuous time, and then you convert it back into discrete time design into H of Z. So you get an H of S, you convert H of S into H of Z. So we know this much. And so means you are designing something where all the poles are going to be on left hand side, and they are to be mapped into H of Z, where poles are to be inside the unit circle. Okay. Then we said the people who have designed analog filters, these are the three most famous design techniques. One is called Butterworth filter design technique. Second is called the Chebyshev filter design technique. The third is called elliptic filter design technique. So these are the three most famous design techniques for designing analog filters. And what Butterworth does is it uses a monotonically decreasing function of omega, as we just covered. And then it was, and that's how, the things evolve. And somebody said, why not to let some ripples here? And this becomes a Chebyshev type 1 design technique. And then somebody said, why not to let the Chebyshev? Then said, why not to allow some ripples here? It becomes a Chebyshev type 2 technique. And the mathematical expression must have gotten more complex. And it was elliptical design technique, which says, allow ripples in the passband and ripples in the stop band. Okay, and we'll see the difference, why these are three different techniques. And once you are using MATLAB, you can either select Butterworth or Chebyshev type 1 or Chebyshev type 2 or an elliptic design technique to design an IR filter. And this is a good comparison. Okay, a good comparison that given a specifications, you select, and I'll show you in MATLAB as well in a while. You select first Butterworth. Butterworth would require 44 coefficients, 44th order filter to meet these specifications. And once you change them to Chebyshev, the same specification can be met with a 14 coefficient filter. Okay? And this is the improvement you get. And if you again change it to elliptic filter, okay, elliptic filter would only require 8 coefficients. So obviously once you are designing, you want the design to use minimum number of coefficients. So the best is elliptic design technique. An elliptic design technique would require minimum number of coefficients. So that's why you need to really learn about the design, though you may not, once you are even doing algorithm design or implementing a filter, you may not really need to get into the complexities that how somebody has designed Butterworth, Chebyshev, but you need to know these broader aspect that use elliptic design, because elliptic design gives you a filter in minimum number of coefficients. Don't use Butterworth. Butterworth is going to take a lot of computation meeting the same specs. So in every case you are meeting the same specification, then why to waste computation once you are allowing your frequency response to ripple here, why are you forcing the response not to ripple? And that because it's costing you in terms of the amount of computation you will be requiring to do. So now simple Butterworth, I told you it uses a monotonically decreasing function of omega, and this is the magnitude square, and this is the function he used, and it is magnitude square means it is function multiplied by its conjugate, and conjugate is simply minus j omega. So okay, we covered this, and we said converting this j omega to h of s is simple. Just replace j omega by s, which is sigma plus j omega, and put sigma is equal to 0, you get back to this. So this is the expression. And then you said, oh, this expression I need to find 2nth root of unity. 2n mean from 0 to 2n minus 1, put different values of k, you get all these poles, 2n poles. So if you look at the expression, it will be something like this. Okay, if for example n is equal to 3, you have 3 poles here and 3 poles here. They will be symmetrically placed across pi by 2. Okay, why pi by 2? Because of this j appearing here, it gives you this j primarily is pi by 2. So across pi by 2, so you always, I start from here. The best is you draw a circle with omega c, and whatever is the separation between the poles, you place first 2 poles here, and then you place rest of the poles. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put these 3, give these 3 to h of s, and these 2 h of minus s. If n is equal to 4, you are going to have 4 here, again pi by 2, around pi by 2 you have 2, and then you give these 4 to your h of s. So this becomes your transfer function, and this is the formula that you find out its exact location. It's very easy to find out the exact location because you know the angle and you know the radius. Because if you know the radius and you know the angle, you know the value. So you have first pole, second pole, third pole, and omega c raised to the power cube. So you have these, this is the Butterworth filter design technique. So how you basically go about finding out the value of n, and then finding out the value of, so there are, if you look at this expression, there are 2 design parameters which you need to find. You need to find out the cutoff frequency, you need to find out n. If you know omega of c, if you know n, then you can easily plot these. So the 2 design parameters which you have to figure out from the specifications. So given the specifications, you have to figure out two things. One is n and the other one is omega c. Let's see how we figure out these two things. So now we are really appreciating Butterworth, that this is a technique where you can design a filter, and still we need to know, and we know that it's very simple. The answer is that if you know n and if you know omega of c, then you can know h of s. How? You plot, this is pi by 2 axis, okay, and n means that 360 divided by 2n are the location of your poles at omega c radius. Across these, first two are placed across these. Find out the separation between the poles and plot them. Let's say if there are only 4, so these are the location. So you can easily find out this value because you know this angle and you know this is omega of c. So as you know, r exponential j theta is the value of p naught. So this is p naught, this is p1. So h of s is simply omega c raised to the power n s minus p naught s minus p1, and then you multiply them together, it will be converted into a polynomial with coefficients a1, a2, a3. So this is the design. So what is left to be calculated is a value of n and value of omega. These are the only two unknowns which you got to figure out given a specifications. So once you start designing a filter, you will be given a specification like this. So example, so you will be given specification, and we know how the specifications are given. They'll give you specification like this. Okay. So always these 4 things will be known to you. Always. So one is, what is, if this is usually 1, what is this? This is delta of 1. Delta of 1 will be known to you. In this case, it says this value is 0.89125. Okay, so you are allowing from 1 to 1.89125 your frequency response to live here. Then the second thing you will always know will be this value and this value. This is omega of p and omega pass, omega stop. And if they are given in small omega domain, we know small omega is equal to capital omega into t, and usually we can keep t is equal to 1 if you want to, and I'll tell you why. But this is the expression you use to convert digital specs to analog specs. Digital specs to analog specs. So you know omega p, you know omega of s. Here omega of p, for example, let's say is 0.2 pi, and omega s is 0.3 pi. So this is second thing which you will know, always know. And the third thing which you will know is this delta of 2. Always delta of 2. So these are the specification. This is 0.17783. So this is the example in the book which uses this 0.89125, 0.17783, 0.2 pi and 0.3 pi. And even in MATLAB, we'll shortly see that MATLAB also does this for you. How should I find n and omega c? The only thing I know that Butterworth filter is HCJ omega square, and it's very simple to understand, is equal to 1 over 1 plus j omega over j omega c raised to the power 2n. So this is our mathematical function. How many unknowns are there? There are 2 unknowns. One is omega of c, the other one is n. Okay. So like an equation which says y is equal to mx plus c. How many unknowns are there? 2. M and c. So if there is an equation of a straight line and you want to find out the equation, you need to know 2 points. Any 2 points on this line, if you know, you can find out the 2 unknowns, m and c. That's simple, and you must have done this so many times. If there is an equation, so you say I need to know 1 point, let's say it is 0 and 2, I know another point is 2 and 5. So if you know these 2 points, first put 0 and 2 in this equation. Okay, so 0 and 2, add 0, value is 2, so y is equal to c, 2 is equal to C, and then put 2 and 5. So y is equal to, 5 is equal to m2 plus C. So these are the two equations, two unknowns, and you solve, you can know it. So whenever you have an expression, depending upon how many unknowns are there, you got to create those many number of equations. So here in this expression I have two unknowns. One is n, the other one is omega c. So I need to know 2 points on this curve, which is a monotonically decreasing function of omega. I need to know 2 points, and I actually know 2 points. One is this point, the other one is this point. Definitely it is monotonically decreasing function is going to pass through this point, where it drops down in the transition band and goes to this, and I know this point. What is this point? This is omega p. Okay, and what is this point? Omega p, and its value is 1 minus delta 1. And what is this point? It is omega stop, and its value is delta of 2. So I precisely know these 2 points and their value. Okay, I know the value of this. So what I do here is, first, instead of omega, value of omega, I put omega pass, which in my case is 0.2 pi, and its value I put here 0.89125. And then I get one equation. Okay, so the one equation is 0.89125 square is equal to 1 over 1 plus j 0.2 pi over j omega c raised to the power 2. So this is the equation number 1. Then you put the second point, you get equation number 2. Then solve these two equations simultaneously, and once you solve this, you get an n and an omega c. Once you have n and an omega c, you are done with finding an h of s. So let me show you the same here, the same example solved here. So the same example is solved here. Okay. So this is an example. This is how it is given, that from 0 to 0.2 pi, 0 to 0.2 pi, your frequency response is till 0.89125. And then from 0.3 pi to pi, it drops down to 0.17783. Okay, so you convert this into small omega to capital omega. And here the transformation is small omega is equal to capital omega into t is equal to 1. So simply just instead of omega, write j omega. So same specs. And then this is the equation. So this is the equation. Now you have 2 points, and you first put omega 0.2 pi and this 0.89. And then put omega 0.3 pi and this as 0.17783. If you do that, so you are putting this point and this point in this equation, and you get 2 equations and 2 unknown, and you solve them. So your n becomes this and omega c becomes this. But as you know, your n has to be a whole number. So you uplift it, as you find out your ceiling, it becomes 6. So 6, and you go back, put the value of n again, the omega c will change a little, and this becomes your expression. So there are going to be 6 poles on left hand side, 6 poles on the right hand side. You find all the poles and you find the transfer function. So this is how it is done. So you put first 0.2 pi and this is the value. This is your equation number 1. Then you put 0.3 pi and this is your value. You have 2 equations. Okay, and then you solve them simultaneously. It will take you, it's not that simple to solve, because unknown is coming as a power. You have to take log of this, and I don't want to get into that complexities. I just want you to know that these 2 equations can be solved for n and omega c, then has to be converted into a whole number, and then you find out omega c. Once you know, then there are going to be 12 poles, 6 on right hand side, 6 on left hand side, and you only take what are on the left hand side, and then you pair them together and you get a transfer function. And you get a transfer function, you are done solving a complex problem. Okay, so you are done solving a complex problem, and this is how a filter is designed using Butterworth filter design technique. Let me also show you how the MATLAB does it. And as you see, then in MATLAB you have a filter design toolbox, and this filter design toolbox would also ask you the same questions. It will ask you what is your delta pass. It is calling it D pass. I am saying it is 0.1. So 1 to 0.1 I am allowing, and 1 to minus 0.1 I am allowing. So this, it will ask you what is your delta of 2. This is delta of 2. In this case I am saying 0.001. Okay, so because I know ideal is not possible, I am saying design me in 0.001. Then because the MATLAB wants you to always relate it to your analog signal, so it asks you what is your sampling frequency. Okay, it will not let it use your digital omega p and omega pass, but rather it would relate everything to your sampling frequency, so that you know what frequencies you intend to pass and what you intend to stop. So in MATLAB, once you tell that this is your sampling frequency, and you know this is half of the sampling frequency that relates to pi, so there is nothing beyond fs/2 which you can see in your digital signal. So it, instead of plotting this on pi, it plots it on the frequencies which are the real frequencies. So from this perspective, you need to give your omega pass and your omega stop. What is your omega pass? Your omega stop. Okay, so these are the specifications. You got to provide it delta 1, you got to tell it delta 2, you got to tell it omega pass and the omega stop in relation to sampling frequency. If you are done giving these specifications here, these are the specifications which you provide. Now you need to select whether you want to design an FIR or an IR filter. FIR or an IR filter, because here we are learning about IR, so let me select IR filter. Okay, so you said I want to select an IR filter. So once you said you want the MATLAB to design an IR filter, then you have to find out which technique you want to use. If you click here, it says I can design a Butterworth, I can design a Chebyshev type 1, I can design a Chebyshev type 2, I can design an elliptic filter. Okay, and I can design, and then there are others as well. As you can see, maximally flat, least, Piath norm. People are coming up with the techniques. So MATLAB has more, but the book covers only the first 4. So Butterworth, you say Butterworth because this is what you have learned. You say I want MATLAB to design a Butterworth filter, and I want it to use minimum order, and obviously it's a low pass filter. So you go and you say design filter. So MATLAB would go and design a Butterworth filter. Is going wow, and you see it is a monotonically decreasing function of omega in because it's always plots it in dB, so it looks like something like this, but otherwise it's a Butterworth filter. And look at the order is 31, and remember it would always split it into 16 sections, and we know that, okay, because of the implementation strategy, it always uses second order sections, and we learned this in the previous course. But you can ask it to you can ask I want it to convert to single order sections, convert it to single order section, and you can ask MATLAB that, because you have at this provision of double precision, so you ask it to give me coefficients as double precision coefficients. So it'll take some time, and then convert the coefficients into single section coefficients. Okay, so then what you can do is this is how you design a filter. And if you want to look at the poles, and you can go click on the poles, and it'll show you the poles, and you see all the poles are. So this is how the poles in S-plane, which are on a circle, once you convert them, still we need to learn how to convert them into discrete domain. H of Z, we have only done H of S till now, but these are the poles, how they are appearing. And 31st order filter. And now you say, what if I design the same using Chebyshev type 1? Okay, and you say design filter, Chebyshev type 1. And you see, now your order is only 13. From 31, now you can design the same filter using only 13 coefficients. So same specs, same specifications. Okay, you say, wow, I think I should use this. But then there is yet another technique where you allow a ripple. And here, if you look at this, the magnitude, so there are ripples. If you magnify this, there are ripples here, but no ripples. in the stop band. Then you say, no, I want Chebyshev type 2. And you say design filter. You see, now there are ripples in the stop band. This is Chebyshev type 2 and order is still 13. And then you say, what if I design an elliptic filter? So you say elliptic filter and design filter. You see, the same filter is now designed using only 8 coefficients. 8 coefficients. This filter, 8 coefficients. And you are allowing ripples here. Ripple in the pass band, ripple in the stop band, and you say, I think this is a good design and only 4 sections, second order sections, so I should use it for my implementation. It's again up to you whether you want to use this or an FIR filter, but preferably you, and now what you do is you go to here and get the coefficients of B's and A's. So these are the coefficients of B's, coefficients of A's. You take it to your embedded system, and as Dr. Ali has given you an assignment where you need to actually implement a difference equation, and these are the coefficients of B's and A, and you implement it as a difference equation. If you have luxury of a double precision arithmetic machine, you just use a single order section. But if you don't have that luxury, then preferably use second order sections and put 4 of these second order filters in cascade. So MATLAB would actually let you do that, and as we know that you go here and you say convert to second order section, and it'll convert these into now 4 filters. This is filter number 1, and then you have filter number 2 and filter number 3, so you can do that easily. Now what happens if, let's see here, and let's go back to what we are learning is a Butterworth filter. You change the specification. You say, well, I want my this to be smaller and this to be smaller more. Okay. Now you are tightening the constraint. You are saying my pass band ripple should not be more than 0.01 instead of 0.1, and so is you are changing the stop band ripples as well. And you say design a Butterworth filter for me for these specifications. Okay, so it is Butterworth filter, and it has into 22. I think I must have done some squared unit, must have done something. Okay, let me, yeah, so change this into 100 dB for example. So you see it has now requiring you 39 coefficients instead of 31 coefficients. And what if you change these as well? You say not 12, but I want it, you are giving less margin, less transition band. And if you do that, it would require more coefficients. So as you tighten the constraint, you start spending more computation. So it is up to us that what we really want to do once we are designing a filter. So here if you say design a filter for me, wow, look at this. It says 224 coefficients. Okay. What you have done now, you want your transition, the frequency response to get down to the stop band at 10 kilohertz, going from 96 kilohertz, and then you come back and you say, oh, should I spend like 224 coefficients, 112 second order filters just to filter out my signal? And this is where the engineering decision comes into play, that what should I do? Should I let a little of this unwanted signal getting into my original signal, or I want to just kill it so nothing unwanted should get into my signal? But then you end up spending a lot more amount of computation, and if it is happening at a very high rate and you say, wow, this I cannot even sustain, this type of a design I cannot even sustain, and you go and tighten it more. Let, for example, you say I have a very sharp transition, and so this is where the your decision as an engineer becomes important. Look at this. It is 898 coefficients 449 filters, and you say, oh, I don't want to do this, so I don't want to do this because I don't want this type of a transition. So you go back and change even the regulatory requirement. You put the guard bands between two channels. You say, because I know if I have very little transition between one channel and the other, I got to design filters like these, and filters like these are formidably expansive in implementation. So an engineering decision requires so many factors for consideration. You cannot just close your eyes on the complexity of a device by giving it very tight or very ambitious design constraints. So you got to relax your design constraints so that you can design a cheaper and less expensive system, rather than having a more expensive system and saving a little here, where you are allowing a very little space between two channels, this much space. But then that is a wastage. Nobody is using that space. So an engineering decision is, should I spend more here and save there, or should I waste there and save here? And so those people who design these standards, they take these decisions, and after a lot of deliberations, there's a lot of deliberation, fighting, and then they decide that how they want to do this. Okay, so interesting is this, that this is how the filters are designed. And now one more thing which we need to just cover, which is again a very simple thing to learn, is this is h of s. Okay, this is h of s, not h of z, but what I want is an h of z. So how do I get from h of s to h of z? How to get from, any guesses? How to get from h of s to h of z, because h of z will give me a difference equation. Okay, how to get from h of s to h of z? So there are different techniques. Getting from h of s to h of z, there are two techniques. One is a simple technique which is called impulse invariance technique. And what this technique does is that it takes inverse Laplace transform. You have an h of s, it takes an inverse Laplace transform and find h of t. Once you have h of t, you sample it and make an h of n. And you remember, once you sample a signal, your spectrum, so here you have a spectrum, this is one, but once you sample it, you are going to get multiple, every 2 pi you are going to have a copy, and its magnitude will be reduced to 1 over t, so you multiply it by t. Okay, and then you take its Z transform. Once you take its Z transform, you get an h of z. Okay, so because continuous design techniques would only give you a transfer function in S domain, and this you take inverse Laplace transform and convert it into a T domain. And once you have T domain, okay, then you discretize it, and then you take its Z transform. For example, you have, like we have seen, you have an expression like this, raised to the power n. In Butterworth, you have s minus p1, s minus p0, p1, s minus p2. Actually, there are 3 of these. So this is your transfer function. This is your transfer function. First, what you do is you convert them into binomial expansion, and you have now a naught s minus p naught plus a1 s minus p1 plus a2 partial fractions. Sorry, so you make partial fractions. So you know, not binomial, partial fractions. So you know how to make partial fractions. Okay, so you convert them into partial fractions. So once you have partial fractions, now you take its inverse. You take its inverse Laplace transform, and we know Laplace transform of this is A naught exponential P naught T ut plus A1 exponential P1 T ut plus similarly A2 exponential P2 T ut. So you get this. Now you discretize. Discretization means you replace T by NT. So you say, let me convert this into h of n. So you get A naught exponential P naught T is NT plus A1 exponential P1 NT plus A2 exponential P2 NT, and everything is U of n. Only right hand side. This is what you get. Okay. And then you have to multiply it with T to make sure that you give that gain, because sampling would reduce the frequency response by 1 over T. So this is your h of n. This becomes h of n. And if you look at this, this is really alpha raised to the power n, and we know the Z transform is 1 over 1 minus alpha Z inverse U of n. So once you take h of Z, it becomes T A naught 1 minus exponential P naught T Z inverse plus A1 1 minus exponential P1 T Z inverse plus A2 1 minus exponential P2 T Z inverse. These are the three factors. Right? You don't need to go through all of this. You don't need to go through all of this. T can be 1. T can be 1. T1, T1, T1. So you get h of Z as A naught 1 minus exponential P naught Z inverse plus A1 1 minus exponential P1 Z inverse plus A2 1 minus exponential P2 Z inverse. So means that from HF to h of Z, all you have to do is your pole will get over the exponential. Okay, 1 minus exponential P naught, 1 minus exponential P1, 1 minus exponential P2. So the transfer function which is given in h of S will be converted into transfer function in h of Z. So you are done. Once you have an h of Z, it means that you are done with the design. You are done with the design because you started with the specifications, you design an h of S, and now you have an h of Z. And h of Z basically is a difference equation, and so you take the difference equation. So once you do it in MATLAB using the Butterworth design technique, it gives you the transfer function in h of Z and not in h of S. So this is the Butterworth filter design technique. The Butterworth filter design technique primarily uses simple process of sampling that we have learned in chapter number 3, sampling, or chapter number 4 perhaps. The sampling process requires this whole thing, but ultimately results into an h of S where every pole gets onto an exponential, and exponential. So you know P0, P1, P2, so you can directly find out the h of Z instead of going through this whole process. So h of Z can be easily figured out by if you know your h of S, or you know the poles, location of the poles. So that's simple. Now there is only one thing which you need to understand, and that thing is that you are designing, okay, let me try to explain this, that what you are designing is H j omega. I'm sorry, H j omega. And you are designing something, let's say you have something like this. And this frequency goes from minus infinity to infinity. This is a limitation of impulse invariance technique. That you design a filter in capital omega domain, the capital omega frequency runs from infinity to minus infinity. Though it is a very good filter, But once you go through its discretization, is the process of sampling, that you will be making copies of this at every 2 pi, okay, at every sampling frequency. A copy, then there is going to be a copy, then there is be a copy, and then there is going to be yet another copy, another copy. So it is, what will happen? Alias, 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 alias. Okay. So there is a possibility that though the filter you have designed in this domain, it meets all the specifications that you have put forward for the filter design, but your digital filter may not, because of the process of aliasing, because here the infinity, because of the analog frequency going to infinity, digital frequency only go to pi. It means I'll come back alias, alias, alias. So every copy will be aliasing the original copy, and your frequency response may not meet the specifications. So they got stuck into a situation where, though you have designed a filter using analog filter design techniques and then have converted it into a digital filter, but once you go back and look at the frequency response of the digital filter, it is no more meeting the specifications. So this whole purpose of designing filter has failed. So then people must have been thinking about somehow, instead of just using the sampling process, somehow fitting this infinity and minus infinity into pi and minus pi. This is what we are going to see in our next class, that how you primarily ensure that a filter which is designed in analog domain still meets specification in discrete domain. How do you make sure about that? And that is the second part of our design problem, which is, that technique is called bilinear transformation, and we will study bilinear transformation, and which is basically the MATLAB default is it uses bilinear transformation of converting a filter from HS to H of Z, and after doing that we will study FIR filters. So if you have any questions, please ask, and I shall also be running a survey and just asking you that whether you are following signal processing online or you have problems in comprehending. Though we are giving you assignments, we are giving you quizzes, we are giving you labs and designing around these concepts. So if you're facing problem, please do let us know, so that we augment your learning of signal processing, because this is a very core course which feeds into so many courses in computer engineering, especially once you learn machine learning, deep learning, image processing, pattern recognition, and even data analytics and stuff. So if you have no question, then inshallah we meet next week. और वो जो मैंने आपसे दूसरी बात कही थी, मैंने I recorded a video early in the morning on that day. It was not meant to be seen at that time. It was only कि आप अपने वक्त पे देख लें, और फिर हम देखते हैं. I understand कि you must all be busy in doing your assignments and dealing with the midterms and finals. तो हम मेक श्योर करेंगे कि आपके पास जब टाइम स्पेयर करने के लिए होगा तो उसमें आप टाइम लगाएं, और आई होप कि वो भी एक अच्छी चीज़ होगी. एंड आई वांट आवर स्टूडेंट्स टू ऑर्गेनाइज सच अ मेगा इवेंट इंशाल्लाह. थैंक यू वेरी मच. इफ़ यू हैव नो क्वेश्चंस.